Hey, everybody, welcome back to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson. And if you are watching this on YouTube or a video stream, you can see we're going to do something a little different. As of right now, and I think this happened just over a week ago, our industry is collectively on fire talking about the Jeff Nippard throat punch incident, receiving a throat punch from Mike Van Wyck in a gym in Canada, which actually sent Jeff to the hospital just to do some diagnostics, make sure he was okay. So I have been watching what I can from this, Adam. You brought it to my attention. So I understand that there was just some words exchanged through social media. I saw Mike Van Wyck saying, perhaps calling out Jeff by name, but saying, hey, if all of these science guys, if all of these super smart PhDs in exercise science and nutrition know so much, why are they all so mediocre? And him as as a 6'5" heavy gear using guy, he obviously feels superior in muscle mass, strength, etc. And then Jeff gave a response, which I thought was pretty fair. He wasn't confrontational. He was basically just explaining this is why I like to use science validation for my theories and methodologies and approaches in the gym and so forth. And if you don't, good, you do you. Then they met in a gym. So, couple questions for you. First, I understand. Excuse me. This is Mike's gym in Canada. Is this also Jeff's? Like, do they literally train in the same gym?
So that was what I wanted to bring up. I don't think this was just that they bumped into each other. I do wonder if this was like the same gym that they train out of. And I kind of thought of the perspective, right to free speech. But if I disagreed with a trainer, I'm probably not going to make a direct reel with that person's face in it and post it. However, it is freedom of speech. And also, if somebody did that to me that went to my gym, I probably wouldn't throat punch them either, but I'd be very disappointed. So that was I'm actually glad you started with that because, you know, I'm definitely a big Jeff fan. And obviously, as the victim in this, situation where somebody took their anger out on him, it may not have been the wisest decision to make the reel with the person's, face in there with their voice saying what they said. That might be more post worthy where you keep the person's, you know, face and just keep it private. They'll probably know it's about them, but at least you're not directly pointing the finger as much.
Yeah, to start out this conversation, first of all, there are a lot of people talking about this from different perspectives, and I want to mention a few of them. They're very worthwhile. But I also humorously told you a few days ago, like I want to kind of break into the self-defense part of this, and yet when I watched the film, now I really want to do that because I think that could be a unique perspective. For the reasons you said, I personally refrain from calling people out. I mean, it's just a pretty just shitty way to do life, right? Just to instantly create enemies and to piss people off and to take their words out of context and just for the sake of, clicks or views to create that kind of animosity. You're definitely looking for conflict at that point. Um, Neither here nor there. Like you said, freedom of speech. Some people like that. Some people think the controversy is worth the publicity. Um, so, do you know who actually called the first person out? Who used the other person's name first to say, I disagree with this person. He is a bad, stupid idiot.
So all I know, I do think it was Jeff's video that just kind of explained like the scientific approach is, you know, the better way and went through his accolades. It was very professionally done, with his wording, aside from maybe keeping Mike's, face in there, unfortunately. So, you know, and you gotta think if you're at the same gym. that's a pretty bold move. Now, you always wonder, did something behind scenes happen? Did someone take somebody's client or feel like their client was taken? Or did just the client choose to go a different direction? And that person said, I want a more scientific approach, or that person said, you know what, I don't believe in the science, or maybe they don't care about the science. And that's actually what I think could be another segue of this conversation as well.
Yeah. So let's get into the video in case some people haven't seen it yet, and then we can dispel that and just talk about it. So first, if I have this right, I am using video footage from Greg Doucette, who is using video footage from John Bravo films. So this may get a little convoluted, but it's in public domain, so I think we're okay to do this. But there is Jeff Nippard's videographer there taking some footage on the screen right now. You can see that on your left. And then there's the closed circuit TV footage from the actual gym that was released, I believe at Jeff Nippard's request. So I'm not going to show you the whole altercation here, but I want to explain it and then roll the tape on what we see here. So Jeff is in this gym doing, standing vertical cable chest flies, right? He's standing there, doing this, and his videographer is standing there doing, his work. Jeff's narrating a little bit. And then Mike kind of walks pretty close to him, like intentionally walks in front of him and says something like, "What's up?" or "Sup, Jeff," something like that, and then continue to go on to another part of the gym and do his thing. This, from a social science perspective, is no different than a black bear who charges you and then stops, or a silverback gorilla who pounds his chest, stands up on his hind legs. Yeah, all those things are alpha male dominance hierarchy displays of aggression. But there was no punch thrown yet. It was just like, "Hey, little bitch, like here I am. If you want some of this, like," and then he went to the other machine. And Jeff just kind of chuckles. He's like, he looked kind of surprised that Mike was there or whatever. But again, if they train in the same gym, they're gonna run into each other. Then here's where it gets dicey because some people are saying, well, Jeff's at fault for this, Mike's at fault for this. Mike, of course, is now being charged with assault and so forth. At the point where you see this closed circuit footage on the right, Jeff had made another comment across the gym, like something like, "Hey, Mike," or something like, and then it's not completely clear who said what, but then Jeff walks 10 or 15 feet toward Mike, and that's where we see this starting point here. Now, here's a couple very odd things. I'm going to say this was very, very weird and wrong on Jeff's part, but I understand why he did it. He walks up to Mike, who continues to posture up. So now Mike comes up and he's raising his lats, and his posture is definitely in an alpha state where I'm going to show you I'm bigger than you. Jeff does the opposite. Jeff puts his hands behind his back. That's an anthropological display of submission. I'm not going to hurt you. I don't want to fight. My hands are not only down, I've intentionally put them behind my back. Then you see Mike do the opposite, which is when he throat punches him, trips him across this bench, continues to pursue him, does it again, and then does the same thing to the cameraman who had already put his camera away. So I'm going to get into some of those things where I think from a self-defense or a provocation standpoint, things just went to shit quickly. But let me play this, and I think I have the sound turned off because I just don't want to get into that. So those of you who are watching this, you can see it repeated. Then there's Greg making a couple comments here. I want to see if I can show another piece or two. Again, this is from Greg Doucette's channel. Okay, I'm just gonna I want to replay that a time or two here just from the beginning. So those of you watching, you can just see this throat punch. It's more of a throat push, not really a punch, especially when you slow it down. You can see it from both perspectives. Okay, now I'm going to stop this screen share so Adam and I can be a little bit more conversant on this. So tell me what you see in that, especially after I kind of gave that play-by-play.
Well, I mean, you see that the first attack has been thrown, and a lot of people did call it a punch. It does look more like a push or throw. But pretty horrifying to, I'm somebody who wants everyone to like me. So first of all, like, I've certainly had disagreements with coaches, and I've made posts about things coaches have done without actually putting the actual coach's name in it. And sometimes people can sniff it out, and sometimes people can't. You kind of always want to know your audience, and I always think if I'm, literally, truly offending one true person, I probably couldn't sleep at night. But in that video, you obviously see somebody who's submissive in an aggressive approach. And, it seemed like it was almost planned that he was going to come over there and do something physical. Um, Also, the bench being behind his legs is something no one's really talking about. Like, depending on how acrobatic Jeff is, that really could have taken a bad turn. Also, with the attachment rack to the right, like, or left, I mean, if he would have been over a couple feet, your biggest thing in getting hurt in the gym is hitting your head on a metal object or just the weights in general. And those are the biggest dangers we face every day. I mean, when people fall from 3 feet, is all it takes to kill someone. So, having that bench trip him up is I think the most dangerous act of the whole thing. And it seemed like Jeff wanted nothing, no aggression back, which is pretty amazing. When people get hurt, sometimes that's their recourse, is to, fight back, attack back. So good for him they didn't, you know.
So this is the thing that people don't realize. We all want to impose our view of civility on the world. Like this is how we all act. There are very, very few species that kill each other, and we are one of them. We are one of the most violent species in the animal kingdom. Uh, Man-on-man mortality is an average of 0.2%. You don't get much higher than 0.5 or 0.6% when you look at other barbaric animals that, I mean, most species don't even attack one another. We get as high as 20%. In normal stasis, we average about zero point 0.2, according to anthropology experts. We get up to 20% where there's religious conflict, war, where we actively feel like we have something to fight for, which is exactly what this kind of conflict puts two people in the thrust of when it comes to even just verbal sparring. You attacked me verbally. You're attacking my occupation. You're attacking my ability to earn a living. You're attacking my pride. I mean, people feel these things at different levels, but a lot of people feel them deeply and very practically. There's a utilitarian sense when you're attacking my career and source of income. So to just glibly call people out, and I talk about other influencers in our sphere who do this as a business model, who constantly create videos and just seemingly wake up every day to take someone down. This is exactly what you get. Like this is the potential every single time, physically, legally, or otherwise. Mike Israetel made a video that most people took as humorous, but there's a lot of serious, even though sarcasm in it, points that he makes about you do this to me, I'm going to end you. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but you better look over your shoulder because I will get you. And so for Jeff and Mike to not take care of this offline, hey man, really sorry. I totally understand how you took that. My bad. I'm going to issue an apology. I didn't mean it personally. Here are my professional differences. That kind of de-escalation is where you need to go unless you're interested in something like this potentially happening. And again,
Mhm.
you and I are both, I think, pretty intellectually articulate and socially responsible enough to know that's just, I just don't want to even put myself in that position. So I want to get into some of the physical things because of my combat sport background. But from the other things that you're hearing out there, and some people are still ascribing blame to one or the other, how do you take this at this point?
Yeah, honestly, for me, I'm like, don't get in that situation in the first place. You know, I actually had a coach who disagreed with me here in Las Vegas, and I actually did try to de-escalate in the DMs, and he just blocked me, and nothing was publicly really said, and he made a couple, you know, posts that were passive aggressive that didn't have my name, and I was like, well, no one's gonna know who he is anyhow. So he's kind of like a retired artist, I would say, was a big coach in 2020. And I'm like, you know what? This isn't a big deal. I also feel like it's a really unfair fight for someone that used to be a big coach in 20, you know, 15, where, science wasn't as much of a leader in the industry as it is now. And he goes to my gym and I'm just like, hey, I personally do not want to start a fight with this person. So I'm just going to let it go, although there's a lot of stuff I could post about clients of his I've worked with and stuff like that. I'm just not going to go there because also too, I respect my gym and their business and, you know, it, as much as what's funny, this got a lot of views, but people like watching it, but they don't like being involved in it. And when you get the members and the staff and everyone involved, it just looks bad on everyone. I want to see my gym, you know, um, do well. So I don't want to bring drama to the profession of the professionals that run my gym.
Well, I'm going to end this video by showing exactly what Jeff should have done physically, like 10 different ways he could have ended the fight with one move. But I also want to emphasize the whole reason we're doing this is that I would personally like to see more civility everywhere, not just in our industry. But this really gives us a chance to point out how far things can go. And so let's say Jeff had poked the bear. He had just decided to, he's going to make a little comment about this person and make fun of him in some way. And then, like I said, if Mike responded in kind, escalating it to a higher level, just say, hey, dude, look, my bad, sorry. But we get to this point in the gym, and there's a little bit of suspicion, like, was this really a setup? Did Jeff go in there looking to really get some kind of confrontation? I don't know. I would say by the way he physically responded, he was looking for a chance to de-escalate in person because even though he looked a little bit surprised when he's doing his standing, cable chest flies, and Mike comes by and he was like, made a little comment to his cameraman. He did go over approaching, not, posturing up, getting in Mike's face, not with his hands up or fist back, but again, literally sign of submission, hands behind the back. But whatever was exchanged verbally definitely sent Mike over the edge. Maybe even just being approached like that on his turf, and he pretty quickly did the throat push. So I'm coming at this from a perspective. Since I was a teenager, I've been involved in karate, judo, jujitsu, Muay Thai, Krav, you name it. I've done it at some point. And every discipline has a different way to go from a point of potential conflict to de-escalation to this is happening, so now I have to survive. The first thing anybody would say is if you think you're in a threatening situation, just leave. Again, you saw that charge approach by Mike. He walks up, gets in his face, says, "What's up?" And then he leaves. That's the shot across the bow. Jeff's chance to say, "Hey, let's pack up. We're going to come back another day." Like this could go the wrong way. He could have done that. I don't disagree with his position to have the opportunity face to face to maybe strike up a conversation and walk away with a handshake. So he walks up slowly, hands behind the back. If you feel threatened, worst thing you could ever do. Why do cops, from sheriff's deputies to SWAT team members, why do they stand like this with their thumbs in their vest? Because they want their hands up. They want a quick block. They want a quick response. They want to know where their hands are. If they need to cant their bodies to draw their weapon, if they need to block something, your hands have to be here. Jeff puts his hands behind his back. Dumbest move ever if you're about to be in a fight. Maybe, again, I know he was trying to show that sign of submission. It just didn't work that time. Here's what you can't do with your hands behind your back. You can't block a throat punch. You can't even step back. Now you're off balance. He positioned himself, like you said, in front of that low cable row apparatus. So without even thinking, he didn't give himself a rear exit. He put himself pinned in a tripping hazard. Second thing to be situationally aware of, but let me run through a couple things here, just for fun. So let's say I go up there and I want to talk to Mike. I'm not putting my hands behind my back. I'm out here. Hey, Mike. Hey, Mike. Hey, man, I'm really sorry. I know we got this little beef going on online, but look at my hands. I'm still in a submissive role. My hand's not here balling up a fist. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. I can block anything from here. That's a self-defense move taught anywhere. Because then here's what happens. If he decides, because clearly Mike threw him like a freaking rag doll. I mean, did you see Jeff's body move when he just thrust forward? Had he actually used a karate punch, throat punch like this, knuckles or even the web of his hand hard, I mean, that can be potentially lethal. But that's what I want to use as one of my first moves. If I decide I want to employ like a pure self-defense move, like in Krav, and my hands are up here, and then Mike reaches out to throat punch me, all I have to do is come up and block that, and now I'm right here where I can throat punch him, I can elbow across the face, I can uppercut elbow into his jaw. You know, a lot of things I could do. I could bring a knee up right into his rib cage, but I blocked that. In karate terms, you would go from here to stepping in and parry this way. So now I have both hands. I can't mistime it. And I'm stepping in here. Now I have his throat exposed. I can hit the brachial plexus with a hammer fist. I can step back and go right into the sternum with a counter punch. Or if I'm deciding I'm going to use my judo brain, you know, I'm coming in here for the block, I can leg sweep him from behind and just continue on. And I could have thrown his 6'5" body on his back and immediately ran the other way. I mean, so many ways to counter this. From a Muay Thai perspective, you know, you could have countered that, and I could have done a Muay Thai kick instantly, just block, boom, and I could have severed every single ligament in his left knee. And then I could have walked away because the guy's not going to get back up. But the two things Jeff did horrifically, is to even approach him in retrospect. You know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's trying to be nice and de-escalate. But to walk up to somebody who's already shown that level of aggression by that charging behavior and put your hands behind your back with a tripping hazard behind you. I mean, just with any sense of awareness, somebody would say, this is a bad situation to be in because I do not know what's going on in this person's mind. So I'll get off of my MMA high horse there for a second, and Adam, kind of bring you back into how maybe you think things could have gone differently.
Well, I probably would have rolled a flat bench behind him and then push him over it.
Stand right there, Mike. Excuse me. I'm gonna.
Stay right there.
I'll be right back.
So yeah, I think for me, not being in that situation in the first place, but you could sense the energy was not good. I probably would have been jumping over that bench and using my old track and field speed, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it's so. So this is where pride works both ways. So Mike comes in, postures up, does his charging behavior, and then leaves. Jeff, again, I really give Jeff credit because he tried a couple ways I saw online him articulating this himself. He's truly a kind person, right? Like he's not trying to create animosity. And even by approaching him, but it's very similar to, like, would you do that to a lion in the wild? Would you do that to a grizzly bear? Like to walk up, hey, Mr. Lion, I'm gonna put my hands behind my back. Please don't bite my head off, like I know you probably will. Like you just don't do that. Again, in retrospect, we can see that with hindsight. I just wonder now how this might be handled for a potential learning lesson. Maybe kind of bury the hatchet between these two, because as I understand it, Mike's being charged for assault. And in Canada, they're going to take this probably a little bit more severely. Over here, I think Jeff would have to literally press charges, or could even ask the prosecutor to dismiss charges. Like I'm going to handle this on our own. I was a participant in this. I provoked a little bit. Let's just drop all these charges. Is that even possible in Canada?
Yeah, that I don't know. But I think the two lessons are, basically what can we learn from this? How far online situations can end up in-person situations being pretty rough, and handled how not to handle a situation for sure if you're someone who, felt like they got hacked on social media. And I guess my fear is, sometimes negative reactions online are still views. I hope that this doesn't persuade the industry that they need a lot of drama for, their accounts to be deemed as successful. Because, in my opinion, it's only successful in Jeff's capacity. I mean, this thing has gone viral. So hopefully it doesn't encourage people to, poke the bear more. Hopefully it's something that kind of de-escalates the industry a little bit. And I had made a post the other day, and as much as you and I are very much science guys, I do think that bodybuilding is a lot like music theory. There's some people who play by ear and they create great music, and there's some people who play by theory. And you're not necessarily doing anything wrong by trying to help people if you genuinely do care about the people. And at the end of the day, some people are going to like the sound of different music than others. But at some point, you may need to take an anatomy class to get you to that next step in your journey to help make your playing by feel make sense. And it doesn't mean you have to know all the science, but you may need to accompany some of the science along the way, or you can go like all science. But I think that bodybuilding is that beautiful blend between anecdotal and science. And I'm mentoring one of my coaches right now, and we were talking about show day food and how I select it. And I mentioned one of his clients liked a certain candy. I'm like, definitely put that on there. And he's like, why that one? I said, because it's wild. And when people see your client one, you will have people hire you just because you gave them a Diet Pepsi on show day. And I said, you could have someone eat dog shit win their class, and you would have someone come up to you and say, I noticed your client ate dog shit backstage and they won. So I'm kind of interested in your approach. even though there's no science to it at all.
First, what a great metaphor, playing by ear or learning music theory. That is an incredibly useful metaphor because I was one of these people who really chided and bristled against coaches who I felt were unqualified. I fought a lot of people on this. And you're exactly right. What we're doing is not exactly medical nutrition therapy. We're not internal medicine physicians trying to cure diseases. And so, just like a personal trainer who one might be a literal orthopedic surgeon, somebody else just got a weekend certification, but they love it, like they know what they're doing, they're very passionate. You're going to have a couple different perspectives, and that doesn't preclude the person with less education from having a viable entry into the market. But I also agree with you, like, okay, now maybe it's time to level up and start fortifying that with some education. What I want to say too is, you have to consider your actions in the moment. Israel even made a joke about, like, of course, like you got all these chemicals in your body, like your testosterone level is that of a bull shark. And so you have all of these emotions and feelings. And so you just reach out and you punch this guy. You push him down, then you push him again, and then you push his cameraman. I mean, the guy is now banned from every gym in Canada, and he could go to jail, could literally go to jail with just one bad decision. I mean, how many times that can happen in the course of a single week for anybody. Just one bad decision, road rage, this, that, one bad comment, making a bad joke. We were seeing this in the political sphere right now. Like, you make one bad joke and all of a sudden it's viral and you lose 1 million votes. Um, it's like these things have to be considered. But the last thing I think that is really important is I forgot to give you a jujitsu move. I went through a litany of other things. I have been dying to try a flying rear naked choke. So that would work like this. Here Mike's coming in with that throat push, especially Jeff being 5'5" to Mike's 6'5" frame. You could literally duck around that push, parry across, use his leg as kind of a stepping stool, and be around on Mike's neck, put your hooks in around his hips, and you could literally be in a rear naked choke position, and have him choked out in 5 seconds. You almost need a taller person. One of my training partners is like 6'2", 6'3". I tried that on him one day. I didn't do it all the way because I was afraid I was, going to hurt his back. But the one thing I do want to say seriously on the self-defense stuff, your best bet is always, even if it hurts your pride, you need to get out of danger. Like, you just do. I know Jeff didn't think that could happen, but knowing the violent tendencies of our species, you just don't know when somebody could pull out a gun, a knife, grab one of those, tricep bar handles and whack you across the head. As you said, even that incidental trip, had his head went back into that attachment rack that was right there, I mean, that could have been a serious, serious injury. Unbelievably unfortunate for this to happen just because two guys are exchanging words on social media.
Yeah, and the paparazzi was there to catch it.
Well, I mean, amazing that the closed circuit TV like had a camera that had that kind of visibility, plus the lower angle from Jeff's cameraman. But I do want to thank you for this because it does give us a chance to talk about how we communicate science. I think that's important. But also, my background in self-defense, combat sports, if that helps anybody. I think, first of all, this is something that is incredibly useful for functional exercise. When I'm doing any kind of combat sport training, I'm telling you, nothing helps your functional strength, speed, agility, flexibility in a higher utilitarian way than knowing a variety of martial arts. Like, that is so useful because I guarantee you 99 out of 100 times, if that 6'5" guy does that to me in a gym, I'm going to be the one who walks out and he's the one going to the hospital. Like, that's just what I've chosen as part of a small area of my life. but cumulatively, it's given me a lot of real joy in different types of combat sport expressions, and just being able to know I can handle myself all the way down to that first move, which is say, hey, dude, I am so sorry. I'm walking up to him with my hands out. Can I buy you a beer? Maybe we can be on each other's podcast, like, and explain this. Like, I really think we have some valuable things here we can share, but I really didn't mean to come off that way. Like, that would have been the first thing to do, instead of coming up with your hands behind your back and literally offering your throat. That was a bad move.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Well, again, fun to do this. Very much off script from our normal stuff, but in line with being a little pertinent to how we can help increase the tone of our industry, and point out how science communication matters in terms of how it's delivered, not just the content of it. But Adam, appreciate you, and those of you guys watching, feel free to uh, contact us for the D1 Club. I'm in the habit of constantly mentioning this because we're really getting a lot of great members in there. For $3 a month, you can have a coach, not have a coach, coach yourself, be a coach. But it's just a community where we talk about all kinds of contest prep, exercise science, nutrition stuff, and we're really helping our members a lot, very tangibly, with their own journey. So we'll see you guys next time in Contest Prep University.